this is my new thing. For those of you who've been around me for a while, I'm an advocate activist, and mostly for veterans, but even for anybody. We were talking earlier about homeless veterans, but there's a homeless person is a homeless person, and in Long Beach, we have a lot of things we do at City Heart. We do a lot of services for homeless, but also the formerly homeless. And they're just as much in danger going back on the streets as just about anybody that's been on the streets. And it's something that they're kind of overlooked because in our world, it's thought that if you go out on the streets and you get somebody who's homeless and you put them somewhere and you get them wraparound services and a permanent housing with a BASH, which is Section 8 housing voucher, everything's taken care of. That's just not true. And so I want to talk about the aging population, and this is my quick overview. I'm just starting to get more and more involved with this as I talk to people who run other agencies and realize that this is a problem that's pretty universal. So just a little background. I work with a large number of senior veterans at Century Villages at Cabrillo. And one of the things that we notice, and as you're looking at me, realize that I'm one of them, that seniors have issues that are really different from a lot of the younger veterans. A couple of things is, number one, there's a kind of an end of road mentality. Here I am, this is it for me, and I'm just going to sit here and wait to die. And you can't believe how many times I've heard that. And there's a lack of motivation there. And just one of the other things, again, this is the background, I'll give you some of the issues. Most use the VA or local providers of Medicare and Medi-Cal. There's some organizations that recruit veterans who are over 65 because they're all eligible for Medicare. So they don't have to go to the VA, even though they could. And they can actually go both places, because I do. So the VA and service providers seem to treat all patients the same in regarding their assessments and their care. And this is one of the things I've noticed, because I'm very involved with the VA. I go there, I talk to them and advocate for the veterans. So they kind of, the way they do things is there's an annual physical, and they do the routine look for physical symptoms, and they look at their annual labs, and just look at seniors the way they look at everybody else. And I know that because when I go to VA, that's how I get treated. And the other thing is that if you're sick or you have a problem, your diseases are treated along with other issues you may have. And as seniors, we start piling up all the different things, but they're not looked at holistically. They're looked at individually. And there's some coordination of care that's going on, but not much. And this is a statistic that I just found the other day that really floored me. I had no idea it was this high. But if you'll notice, 65 and over, the numbers are 73% of all veterans 65 that use the VA. I'm assuming it's the VA, although they say it's the U.S. population. And that really surprised me because a lot of what we hear about are, the younger ones. And you figure with all the wars we've had recently, there were a lot more, but not in the numbers that we have. And of course, these are baby boomers and older. Anyway, there's a lot of issues for the older veterans, and generally, especially those who live alone. Number one is isolation and loneliness, because a lot of them don't have a family to support or check up on them. We see this over and over again. We've had people who go to the VA hospital and they get sent back to their room where they live by the VA, and there's no real aftercare for them other than they'll send a nurse out or they'll call them up, say, how are you doing? And so these people just lie in bed. We had to feed a guy one time because he had no food and his credit card had been scammed. So, so things like that. There's a real lack of motivation that leads to a lack of exercise, both physical and mental. One of the things that we've done down at City Heart is we have a brain fitness class, or we did before COVID, and we're going to start again, because mental acuity is just as important as physical acuity. People slow down, they quit using their brain. We all know people like that. We were on the phone with a 98-year-old woman who doesn't have that problem, but she's got 5 kids, right? But so those 5 children are probably looking out after her. Many of the veterans I work with, nobody. Right. So we just sit there. Another one is food insecurity and a lack of good nutrition. You'd be surprised, even though Meals on Wheels and some of these other places deliver, but people who live in permanent housing have to cook for themselves. If you go to a facility, one of these senior facilities where they have a dining hall, then people can go there, and their meals are included, but they don't have that, and so they don't have fresh food. At Century Villages at Cabrillo, the closest grocery store is 4 miles away, and we've got people in wheelchairs and walkers. There's no way they're going to get on a bus with a bag in their hand, take the bus over to the grocery store and come back. So there's some food handouts. We do it at City Heart, but not enough. The other one, and that's the lack of mobility and just going anywhere, because the VA is 7 miles away. The VA says, well, we're only 7 miles away. It's easy to get here. Long Beach is a city of 500,000 people, and it takes a half an hour on the bus just to get over there. So, these are things that really are issues they have. And another one is that this is one that a lot of people that I've talked to recently say, you're right. It's true. As people age, they just entered the system, years ago, and they've been there maybe 10 years. We just buried a guy that's last Friday had been living there 13 years at Century Villages. He was in a wheelchair when he got there. He was in good shape. When he died, he had bad heart, he had diabetes, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So they change over time, but that's not, to me, it's not acknowledged. The case management that works in supportive housing are social workers and mental health workers, but not necessarily trained to work with seniors and understand the senior problems. The service providers are not coordinating with the VA, and the VA is not coordinating with them. It's kind of, the VA is it's like Kaiser. They're an HMO, health management organization. You get in your car, you drive to Kaiser, and you go see your doctor. Or if you need to get there another way, they'll take you in the ambulance. But there's not real outreach into the homes. They do have some social workers, but again, seniors take a different kind of social worker. And I don't think I'm telling anybody something they probably don't already know. But what really I've noticed is that there's really no leadership in this area of seniors. I have a thing I got from the VA off their website. Concentration today seems to be on younger veterans, and I'm not saying that younger veterans don't count. People should not have to compete for dollars and mind share between young people and old people, but they do. And that's really one of the big issues to me. But here's what the VA has on their website. Sorry, I keep having to move this thing around. Just that way. Elderly veterans may be eligible for a wide variety of benefits available to all U.S. military veterans. VA benefits include disability, compensation, pension, blah, 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 and burial. At least they got that part in there. So that's wonderful, and it kind of reinforces my point. I looked up gerontology, which is the study of elderly people, and the VA together, and it's basically nothing. So what is the VA doing? And again, this is my impression. I live in a microcosm. But in my opinion, they're looking at seniors the way they look at younger veterans, which I said. They are creating some programs. There's a new program, and they're bringing it out, and we're working at City Heart with the VA, something called Whole Health, which is to encourage people. So the idea is they have a peer come out, and a peer is a veteran, not an older veteran, but just a veteran. Most of them are pretty young, young for me if you're 40s or 50s. And so they've got this whole health program, and they're going to do an assessment with them and encourage them to get out and do stuff. And the VA's been doing this for a few years. It takes leadership to get people to do something. Hey, come on, let's do something together. And we're actually recruiting volunteers to be part of this in order to get them connected. I met somebody from an organization called Battle Buddies yesterday. I'd like to invite them on one of the future shows. And to me, they're not showing an awareness of the issues. That, again, is separate. And they're missing an opportunity to show the world that they understand. So here's what's needed, at least in my opinion. Number one is advocacy by all of us to bring awareness to the problem at the local, state, national level. You know somebody, and you know an elderly veteran, or you are one, this is something that you can bring up. And recognition by all the providers that they're dealing with a different population, which leads to dollars from the government. Trust me, there is a ton of money out there for taking care of people, but if you don't focus the dollars where they belong, they go to other places, or they go to some of these service providers that aren't doing their work. And a collaboration of providers to address the problems and solutions. And we're trying to do this in Long Beach. We're collaborating with another agency that works with senior housing to try and bring it to the city and get the city more involved in working with senior. And just a quick story because I've seen it work. There's a guy named Kevin lives at Century Villages at Cabrillo. He's an Army veteran. He was on drugs and alcohol. He goes to AA almost every day. I think he's in his late 60s, something like that. 5 months ago, he was sitting around the place where he lives, and I'd say, "Hey, Kevin," and he was just a sour old man. And then one day he came to City Heart to pick up some food. Actually, he came quite a few times because we had food to give him. And he looked out back, and we've got a garden in back of our building down there. And he said, "I'd really like to start working out in that garden." And 5 months later, he comes in almost every day. He waters, he's planting vegetables and a bunch of other stuff. A totally different guy. I tried to find the video I did of him, but I didn't find it today. So, thanks for listening to an old veteran himself. And that's me.
That was amazing.
Hey, John,
Absolutely amazing.
I have a question for you, John.
Yes, sir.
You were saying earlier that the veterans don't have transportation to get to the VA. That's an obstacle, right? Does City Heart have a connection, or have you guys tried to maybe get transportation? Like a City Heart owned van or something that you can.
Well, we're a startup, but yeah, of course, we're working on that. One of the things, I have the director of the Long Beach Veterans Hospital come out and talk to some of the residents one day, and that came up. There is a van service, but you have to call ahead at the VA. But you have to go through your primary care physician to have it. Well, you know that because you go there. You have it.
Go there.
Okay. But anyway, they have to do a referral for that. But the U.S. Vets has 5 vans. We can't get them to help.
Wow.
This you.
But what could we do, John?
Sorry.
What could we do? Because this information was outstanding. We're so busy trying to get our homeless veterans with disabilities in, and what could we do with this information that you just gave us?
Well, I'd like to,
word out.
Every once in a while bring it back, but honestly, anybody you talk to who deals with veterans, ask them, what do you know about the senior veterans that are living, in supportive housing?
Yeah, but we need some hands-on work. These guys are suffering and starving and,
Well,
So,
lonely and,
so the
I mean, you
problem
name
is-
it.
Yeah, and the problem is they go through a lot of stuff to get them in there, and that's it.
Yeah, just drop
Exactly. Yeah.
John brought that
And
up.
that, it's like, okay, you're not homeless.
Right.
You're on your own now.
Right.
And that mentality is just, that's just wrong.
Well,
And like you say, lonely too. That's horrible.
Connie, it's a really good question, and I wish I could say, well, do this, and this. It's a matter of money
It is.
and
Yeah.
focus. And one of the problems, and the first show I was on, if you'll remember, I talked about the housing problems and
Right.
and
Right.
we ended up having a protest at Century Villages, and that worked. We've got the property people actually sitting down once a month and meeting with us, but it's the VA responsibility that needs to be changed. And if you know anybody who's in political life, reach out to them.
Yeah, and let's use this venue as well to be able to bring awareness about it. Bring different ones on the show that, like the veteran who's now doing the gardening, things like that they can do, because during COVID and social distancing, who would ever think that I have this beautiful garden out here? I mean, I just went to town. I call it my plant babies, and you become so involved in that. It's extremely therapeutic, and look like we could do something to be able to help them, get involved and bring awareness to the loneliness, let them know that there's people out there that want to help,
Well, what we're doing in Long Beach is reaching out to our city council people.
Yeah.
Honestly, if you remember that old politician from Boston, I was going to say Ed O'Neill, but that wasn't him, but Tip O'Neill. His whole thing was all politics is local. And getting to your local politicians is really good. Charles, are you in the 1st District?
Right here downtown, I believe.
Yeah, I think you're in the first. Anyway, there was a thing yesterday. It was called Pets and Vets Parade, and we were there. And so that city councilwoman, her name is Mary Zendejas. I went up.
Yeah, I know her.
Yeah. Well, she's in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
So it's such a huge problem. It really is just trying to make people aware. And Connie, you're right. It's a good venue here. I appreciate the opportunity to start talking about it. I'm just starting my campaign, and for those who know me, they don't really want to hear that. But
I love to be involved with that. It's so important, and like I said, we can use this venue to bring people on. I know a lot of veterans that are suffering wouldn't want to be a guest on the show, and you never know, maybe they want to talk about it.
Well, and you can always have somebody contact me. If they're not in my area,
I'm saying go through you,
because we have a referral system that we work with, and we, there's that's the thing. There are a lot of resources out there. They're just not focused in the areas that I think are important.
Of course.
Yeah, if you look at 73% over 65.
Wow, that's amazing.
And
nothing is being done. That's what's so horrible.
Well, that's like U.S. Vets, we house more veterans every night than anybody else in the United States. Well, we don't give awards for that. How well are they housed is the next question.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And that's where the VA can participate, but they don't see themselves as outreach. That's part of the problem. They are
culture. It's the philosophy has to change. Long Beach is a very disabled advocate type city, but Long Beach is one city. You know, there are
Yeah,
you look
this
across the
everywhere.
nation, the problem is just seriously bad. So
Mhm.
even if what we're doing here, or here in Long Beach, it's still lacking because the whole philosophy and the culture of the VA and the care for it's just it's just
I've been trying for 3 years to try and get that going. We had a little thin thread that got broken a couple of years ago with a person at the VA, and they said, "Well, we'll get it replaced." I'm waiting.
Yeah, and it's a lot of politics that I don't understand. You know,
well,
but but there's some local folks, that we need to get riled up to want to come in and help. I mean, just for someone to come to a veteran that's lonely and read a book, help him to write a letter to his loved one, make sure he's got food. There's some wonderful people. There's churches and temples and others we can just notify and let them get involved, and it doesn't have to be just in Long Beach,
No, I'm just saying that's my venue.
That's your city, yeah, I understand, but the need is great, and I really appreciate you coming on with that. And don't let it stop there. You need to do part 2, 3, 4, and 5, on this
You
issue.
don't have to ask me.
Extremely important, huh?
You don't have to ask me twice.
Okay.
Hey John, I have a question for you. Now, is City Heart lacking in food? Things like that, essentials, things like that.
Well, I mean, there's an organization called Good to Grow. They're up on Santa Fe, for those of you who know Long Beach, up towards the 405, near Willow. And this is a veteran-run organization. They grow food, and they bring us food every Wednesday.
Okay.
And the permanent housing people have the food bank delivers once a week, but that food doesn't last that long, especially if
a lot of it's already it's a
Right.
teeny bit over time.
So I mean, it's kind of like, we can use it. When could you bring
The
it?
reason I bring it up is because there's a church I attend here in Long Beach, and the pastor is Wayne Cheney, and his father was in the government in Long Beach, and they actually held the gospel festival out here a few years back. And I wonder if because they're always doing stuff, and maybe I'll give them a call and
Yeah.
connect
I'm quite sure they want to get involved.
you or whoever it is over there. Maybe we can do a three-way or a connection. Try to get a connection going there, because there's no way.
Don't forget me.
Well, absolutely.
I want to be involved in it too.
Well, I'm talking
My
about
suggestion.
I'm talking about food.
Food,
Of course, you don't
company,
get it.
and-
You over here on Operation Confidence. We didn't get it. I'm just saying.
We can talk to everybody too.
Yeah. And
Well, you need to come visit us.
Well, I still, now that I think I can get out in the community, but we were all masked up there for a while.
Well, we're going to be back to it in a couple.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I don't want to run out there and start a whole new series.
And that's a shame, because City Heart is literally like right there in the midst of every truck container that comes from.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean,
Coming
because I
through
know
there.
because I'm in the business, and I pass by there. All those trucks go to the Shell station right down the street to get
Yes, they do.
fuel and the Chevron and all that. And right there, zillions of dollars being passed through, and you can't feed some people? No.
That doesn't make no sense. That's so bad.
So,
And you had your hand up.
I did. John, I'm really impressed with your way of thinking. What you're really doing is talking about a systemic change. I could give you lots of history of working with veterans, but my stepfather was the adjudication officer for the VA in this region of the country. And even as a child, I saw that the system was not working. Now, what you're talking about is a systemic change, it's more than politics. I understand that the VA is essentially government bureaucracy and a big one, but I'm so impressed with the way you've seen this, because I agree with everybody here that if the people get involved, that's the pressure. One or two veterans, or me writing a letter, or everybody here writing a letter, it's not going to make anything happen.
Right.
But when you get the public involved, your churches and even, other nonprofit organizations,
Right. The synagogue.
that's what we need to do is get together a very serious coming together of partners, and essentially kind of bypass the government until we have a strong enough voice.
Right. That makes a lot of sense.
Beautiful. You're doing a beautiful job, and your presentation was very good.
Wasn't it beautiful?
Thank you.
Yes. So
But we got work to do, John.
I'm here to help you to get a systemic change, so that government is not just listened to by a few people who write letters, but by nonprofit and individuals and so forth who say this needs to be done in America. And we've got new ways of communication. We certainly have new technologies, all of that, and we're still groveling with the people who have served us best. We need spokespersons like you, and I'm definitely very pleased to know this group, and especially Consuela, because she gets all this. So I think we need to try to figure out how are we going to get different organizations and or individuals and or even schools involved. So
And get the media involved. I have personal friends. I don't want to mention any names that are Facebook friends that we can get word to, but because like say for instance, Channel 7 has a food outreach, and I think several other stations do as well.
yeah, I just don't think that legislatures and Congress,
Yeah, it's a hard
direct communication to them doesn't hurt, but it doesn't really help.
No, and they'll usually get involved when they see that you've already got like you said, bringing the public together.
Well, yeah, I mean, they give money to people they've given money to before. I mean, they just keep pouring at these.
Yeah, they do. And you wonder how come you didn't qualify, I've had them come as, I'm not mentioning any names, as keynote speakers and guests of honor at our events. They'll turn around and give a major donation to someone in the audience, and here we standing out there saying, help.
Exactly.
It's our event. We're putting this on because we need help.
Yeah.
And then I look up, and some organization that was our guest got this award, this money that's donated to them. So
we just
those
need
are some of
to
the
do
challenges
something.
that
Everybody needs to do something, and that doing something is not writing letters to Congress.
No, go.
Yeah, that's what they.
It's interesting. I have a saying that came out of the corporate world, which is not that different than the government world, but except that you have to eat, so sometimes you do it a little better. But I used to go to these directors meetings and stuff, and I think, everybody sits around and admires the problem, and nobody wants to do anything.
That's
about
right.
it.
Right.
And Consuela, you're the first one. It's been a long time. What can we do? And instead of saying, "Oh, that's a terrible problem,"
No, I want to get out there. It breaks my heart, And like you said, that's a population that's overlooked, And I can imagine how they feel. I have elderly family members, and thank God they have families that's bringing them food and making sure they bathe and taking their medication on time and clean clothes. But there's others that are unable to provide those personal care for themselves, and just to have someone to come by and say, I'm coming to check on you, let's write a letter or read a book, that's so important.
We've become an ungiving society, and actually, I believe it's our biggest flaw. And we keep thinking that because we have supposed experts in all kinds of fields, that somebody else is taking care of it. We need to take care of one another.
Exactly. That's the way.
Well, we tend to help other countries with billions of dollars, but we
Yeah,
can't, help our own
right.
people right here with
right. It's so
billions of
true.
dollars. So.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Richard, what do you think?
We got to move on to
Richard's
Richard.
thinking something. I'm trying to read his mind. And
Well, he's getting ready to give his presentation too.
Oh, okay. All right.
How
Good.
about,
Sorry, Richard, I took all your time.
No, we stopping the time for Richard. He's
no problem.
important.